Somalis are not terrorizing this nation. We are helping it thrive. Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation.
Today, we're breaking down Douglas Murray's absolutely scorching interview where he tears into Ilhan Omar over her defense of the Somali community amid the Minnesota fraud explosion.
What she said there is, I mean, so ridiculous as to be laughable. That Somalis have been part of the fabric of America. They just haven't been. I mean, a small number of Somalis have arrived in recent years. And, I'd love to know if what it is that they're contributing.
Plus, the shocking shooting of 2 National Guard troops just blocks from the White House. This one is packed with heat. Let's dive in.
I have this test, Rita, on communities, which is if you found out the people in your community were carrying out massive amounts of fraud, would you want to cover it up, or would you want to expose it and make sure it was addressed? We learn a lot about Ilhan Omar by the fact that she doesn't think it's something that should be opened up and addressed. She wants to deflect, and that tells us just everything about her and her own honesty.
Now, Douglas, earlier today, 2 National Guard troops were shot just blocks from the White House. DC Metro Police quickly confirmed that at least 1 suspect was taken into custody. Now, we are speaking just a few hours after this incident, and we don't really have much detail on any motives or the assailant, but I want to play you this clip from MSNBC, or they call themselves MS now. This is their Justice and Intelligence correspondent, Ken Delanian.
But of course, there's so much controversy happening in the United States right now with ICE, who are also wearing uniforms and wearing masks. And so you don't know, people walking around with uniforms in an American city. There are some Americans that might object to that. And so apparently this shooting has happened.
Minnesota is reeling from the largest COVID-era fraud scandal in American history. $250 million stolen from child nutrition programs and Medicaid by networks tied to the Somali community. Luxury cars, mansions, and even money traced to al-Shabaab terror financing. And right in the middle of the outrage, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar steps to a podium in the Minnesota State Capitol rotunda and declares that Somalis are not terrorizing this nation, we are helping it thrive. She calls any criticism xenophobic and dangerous. Enter Douglas Murray, the British commentator famous for never pulling punches, who went on Sky News Australia just yesterday and shredded her response in a way that's already racked up millions of views. Murray didn't mince words. When the host played Omar's clip, insisting Somalis have always seen themselves as a fabric of this nation, he laughed out loud. They just haven't been, he fired back. A small number arrived in recent years, and I'd love to know what contribution offsets the kind of corruption we've just learned about. He laid out a simple test for any community. If you discover people from your group are committing massive fraud, do you want to cover it up or expose it and fix it? We learn everything we need to know about Ilhan Omar, he said, from the fact she wants to deflect instead of address it. That tells us everything about her honesty.
Well, just take 2 things that cretin did there. The first is to imply that people in uniforms in American cities is somehow outrageous and provocative. No, it's been the norm in civilized societies that don't fall apart, that you have police and others who enforce the law, and yeah, they wear uniform. There's nothing new or particularly scandalous or disgraceful about that. And as for, did you notice that little drive-by that he did about the ICE agents wearing masks? Why do some ICE agents wear masks? It's because Antifa and others who wear masks, and again, I'd love to hear MSNBC commentators criticize all of those Antifa people who pretend that, among other things, they're still deeply fearful about COVID and cover their faces whenever they do anything. They don't get the criticism for that. But yes, some ICE agents do cover their faces because they know that there is such hatred being whipped up of ICE agents who are federal agents. There is such hatred being whipped up that they are likely to be doxxed.
He's not wrong on the timeline. Large-scale Somali resettlement in Minnesota only began in the early 1990s after the Civil War. Today, there are roughly 92,000 Somalis in the state. the biggest diaspora in America. And yes, many work hard, own businesses, pay taxes, but the scale of the fraud is undeniable. Dozens indicted, fake autism clinics, ghost children on feeding program rosters, and millions vanishing overseas. When Omar stood with community leaders warning about demonization instead of condemning the criminals, Murray saw it as proof of where her real loyalty lies. She's in Congress because of that voting bloc, he said, bringing sectarian, often racially and religiously bigoted views right into the heart of American politics. Then the conversation took an even darker turn. Just hours before the interview aired, 2 National Guard troops from West Virginia, 20-year-old Specialist Sarah Beckstrom and Specialist Andrew Wolf, were gunned down in cold blood near Farragut Square, only blocks from the White House. They were part of the holiday season patrol Trump ordered to help clean up D.C. spiraling crime. Beckstrom died from her wounds the next morning. Wolf is still fighting for his life. The suspect, an Afghan national who came in through Biden's 2021 evacuation and later received asylum under the current administration, allegedly walked up and opened fire without warning.
But of course, there's so much controversy happening in the United States right now with ICE, who are also wearing uniforms and wearing masks. And so you don't know people walking around with uniforms in an American city. There are some Americans that might object to that.
The host played a jaw-dropping MSNBC clip where their correspondent actually suggested the shooting might be linked to public anger over people in uniforms and masks. Walking American streets implying ICE and National Guard presence was somehow provocative. Murray looked stunned. He pointed out that law enforcement wearing uniforms has been the norm in every civilized society that hasn't collapsed. Then he went nuclear on the mask comment. ICE agents only started covering their faces because Antifa radicals doxed them, threatened their families, and put their home addresses online.
Federal agents who are doing their job and are enforcing the law, it's really appalling, and it follows on, of course, the anti-ICE rhetoric follows on years of anti-police rhetoric in the US. Don't forget, we're only 5 years out of the period where all these Democrats who now want to run for office are trying to pretend that they didn't claim that the American police needed totally to be defunded, and that the American cops are all racists. And Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York, said that the NYPD, the New York police, have their boots on the throats of New Yorkers. I mean, yeah, people who think that language is important, and yes, it can lead to dehumanization and violence, should just look at the years of dehumanizing rhetoric about police, about ICE agents, and others.
The people whipping up hatred against federal agents are the same ones who spent years screaming defund the police and calling every cop a racist, he said. We're only 5 years removed from Democrats pretending they never said that. Language has consequences. Dehumanize people long enough and someone will take a shot at them.
That left her hospitalised has now been convicted of a hate crime because she used the F word, a homophobic slur, to describe her alleged attacker. The mother of 4, Elizabeth Keeney, was charged and has now pled guilty to causing to be sent by public communication network an offensive, indecent, obscene or menacing message. She's been handed a 12-month community order, and she has requirements to undertake 72 hours of unpaid work and 10 days of rehabilitation activity. I mean, this just on the face of it looks so utterly absurd. And this text message was sent to a friend who then dobbed her in, Douglas.
From there, they jumped across the Atlantic to another story that perfectly illustrates the upside-down world we're living in. A British mother of 4, Elizabeth Keeney, was brutally assaulted and hospitalized. While recovering, she sent angry private text messages to a former friend, using a homophobic slur to describe her attacker. That so-called friend reported her to the police. Result? The actual violent attacker is still walking free, no charges, status unknown, but Elizabeth Keeney has now been convicted of a hate crime for the texts. She was handed a 12-month community order, 72 hours of unpaid work, and 10 rehabilitation days. Murray could barely contain his disgust. The police go after the easy target, the woman who sent an angry message because chasing real criminals is too hard. A victim vents in private after being beaten half to death, and the state decides that's the real crime. Classic, modern Britain. And just when you thought the segment couldn't get any wilder, they closed with a hilarious swipe at Meghan Markle. New reports say her staff now formally announce Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, before she enters a room, even if it's just 1 or 2 people. Murray grinned. It's the perfect early warning system. You hear the announcement and you've got 3 seconds to run before she starts pitching her homemade jam or tries to recruit you as a fake best friend for Netflix.
I mean, it's so disgraceful. Do we know, by the way, whether the man who attacked her has been caught or convicted?
That's not clear yet. That's not clear
Oh,
yet. We're still calling him an alleged attacker.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know because it's a classic case of what we've discussed before, that the police will go after the crimes that are restful for them to go after. They'll go after the keyboard warrior, who sent a tweet that they don't like, because it's easier than chasing burglars and so on. And this is another case that, first of all, I mean, what a disgraceful friend that woman has. But
Exactly.
what business are private communications to the police? Where is any sense of proportion about the fact that, yes, a victim of crime after the crime may well say lots of angry things because they've been a victim of crime, and they shouldn't be, and the police should be on top of these things, and a woman should not be able to be assaulted freely on the streets. I mean,
This interview was Douglas Murray at his razor-sharp best, connecting the dots between unchecked immigration, community deflection, media-fueled hatred of law enforcement, the shooting of those young guardsmen, and the slow collapse of common sense in the West. Ilhan Omar wanted the fraud story buried under cries of xenophobia. The MSNBC clip tried to spin a cold-blooded ambush into some kind of understandable backlash against uniforms. Britain punished a crime victim for swearing in a private text. And through it all, Murray just kept asking the questions nobody on the left wants to answer. Who is actually defending the country that gave them everything? Who is willing to call out wrongdoing in their own community? And when does the excuse-making finally stop? The indictments in Minnesota keep coming. The National Guard is still mourning one of their own, and people are waking up fast. Douglas Murray didn't just shred Ilhan Omar, he held up a mirror to an entire mindset that's been dodging accountability for years. What do you think? Did Murray nail it? Or is he being too harsh? Should communities police themselves before demanding protection from criticism? Drop your take in the comments, hit that like button if you're tired of the deflection, and subscribe for more breakdowns that don't hold back. I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp.